viewers, watchers, listeners, welcome back to the Elevated Duty Podcast. Sergeant Norcross here, as always, with
Sergeant Rivera.
Yes, and our lovely guest today, Staff Sergeant Parisi.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. Outstanding.
So, I think that was so loud. So,
fix the audio.
Yeah, I think it needs to step away a little bit. So, like 2 weeks ago, Sergeant Norcross, I was like, hey, Sergeant Norcross, do you have anyone for the podcast? And I was like, we have, he's like, oh, yeah, I have someone. He's an instructor. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Because, we are NCOs and we need, to get, development. We need to go to schools in order to keep our rank. Or if you're an E4, then you need to go to this school to go to E5. So, Sergeant, can you talk a little bit about, before we go in deep to what he does, can you talk about when you joined and why you joined the Colorado Army National Guard?
Yeah, definitely. So in 2013, I graduated high school. I packed up my little old Ford SUV and got in there with my then girlfriend, now wife at the time, Kelsey. Shout out, by the way, I love you. And we drove out to Colorado from California. And 10 days later, I enlisted in the Army National Guard. And
Right away.
I had no reservations about it. I was really excited to do it. I had done a bunch of research online. And after that, I spent a few months getting ready for basic training. I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and I did 13 Mike AIT. So I'm a HIMARS, High Mobility Artillery Rocket System crew member. So I did my basic training at AIT at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And soon after that, came back to the unit and joined the Alpha Battery, 3rd of the 157th.
You said graduated 2013.
Yep.
Straight to Colorado. What made you guys come to Colorado?
Well, my wife was born, her family's from here. She wasn't
Okay.
born here. Her family's from here. And, we really just wanted to try something else new. We were really excited to be grown-up adults. And, it turns out when you're graduating high school, you think you know everything, but you don't.
Sure.
So, we wanted to just kind of do our own life. So we came out here together and planted roots real quick just because she was kind of familiar with it. And I didn't even do any research. I didn't even look up Colorado online, what it was about.
You were along for the ride, no matter what.
We got here and I saw the mountains and I fell in love immediately. I was like, this is home.
That's great.
I love it here.
So you didn't research about Colorado, but you researched about the Guard.
Yes.
Talk to me about that. We have a lot of people and applicants and people that are interested in the National Guard, and there's a lot of avenues, right, Sergeant Rivera? Between all the social medias, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter.
And we recently, so we have the blog, it's up.
The blog's up.
So
good.
So you will be seeing, recently we posted, for example, the biathlon post.
Yep.
It was a massive post. So our plan is to basically reduce all that massive post, make it more edible, and then transfer that massive post into our blog.
Good.
So all of our news and articles will live into that blog.
And you'll post a link for the blog. Yeah,
it should be on our social media right now. If it's not there, then the following week this week we'll put it.
Good. Yeah, great stuff with the biathlon team. And that goes into what I was saying. There's so many outlets right now for gathering information. You go on Google and there's going to be 1,000 search results for the National Guard. And so sometimes it's a little bit challenging for individuals to weed through maybe the stuff that's not being talked about as it should, or stuff that's overhyped. What was the process for you? Where did you do your research? How did you learn about the Guard? What made you interested?
So it was a lengthy process through high school. When I was growing up, I always wanted to be a soldier, or at least in the military. I knew it really young. I was always watching, all the war movies, Band of Brothers, all that. But at its core, everyone's got different reasons to enlist.
Yeah.
College, they want to get a better life. They want to learn skills. Mine's really simple. I love the United States of America. I truly do. To my core, I love the American people. I love what we stand for around the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go to some impoverished or some places that don't have the rights and freedoms that we have, and their symbol of freedom is an American soldier. And that really resonated with me. Even in high school, I wanted to be a part of that. So I started going to all the recruiters. I went to every single branch except for the Army.
Okay.
And I did not go to the Army National Guard until the last visit.
Really?
And I walked into the Army National Guard recruiter's office in California.
Okay.
And they told me about the community mission and the federal mission and what the the National Guard does. And that was just so interesting to me. I knew I wanted to be in the military. I didn't know in what capacity. And the National Guard seemed to maybe fit what I was looking for. I wanted to serve my country and my community.
Yep.
And so when I got to Colorado, being a transplant, someone who was new to the state, what better way for me to become ingrained in my new home, but then serve the community. So I went to the National Guard recruiting office up in Greeley,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest is history. I mean, that's it. I had done my research online, to answer your question.
Mm-hmm.
It was all available online. I mean, there's so many resources, but in reality, the recruiters really just answered all my questions. I just
Good.
went and talked to them. Right?
Good.
Yeah. So a little bit of internet, a little bit of recruiter, and then, it was an easy sell once I heard what you could do in the Guard.
So now after you did all your research and you moved here and talked with the recruiter up in Greeley and you were enlisted into the National Guard, how did it play out, your career thus far? Has it met the expectations that you did all the research about? You touched base on, do you want to tell the viewers and listeners, you mentioned the federal mission and the state and community mission.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been a part, obviously, of federal and state missions? Do you want to talk about the history and what the Guard, has it fulfilled what you were looking for, I guess is my question.
It has been fulfilling, but not in the way I was expecting. And, when you join any service, you can be anxious, scared, nervous. What's going to happen? What am I actually going to be doing? As much as you learn about on the internet and movies and stuff, I mean, until you actually do it, you're not fully sure. And so I expected to be doing some kind of high-speed, action hero type thing.
Yeah.
And that was going to be where I got my fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality, it was the camaraderie I got. So, I have my own family.
Yep.
But I also have a family that I've gotten from the Army National Guard. I mean, if you were at my wedding,
Yep.
you were there, definitely. And if you look at all my groomsmen, they were all service members in the National Guard,
Yep.
except for my brother. I mean, they were
Yep.
all serving with me. They had deployed with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that family that I've gained is something that can't be taken away from me. And that is why I continue serving, that camaraderie. And so that's something I've gained that I didn't necessarily expect at the beginning.
That's great, and it's crazy that you, just like me, you came here and basically straight joined the Guard. It happens the same to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because so I was in Puerto Rico, right? And I don't know if I mentioned this before on the podcast, right? So I was in Puerto Rico,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in the reserve. I think I mentioned that on the podcast with Jackie. So I was going to transfer from the reserve in Puerto Rico to the reserve here in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a slot for me for public affairs. They have everything. So and then I received a call because I applied to a lot of jobs within public affairs.
Mm-hmm.
And then the National Guard called me. It's like, hey, do you want the job? I'm like, full-time job? Yeah, that's what I need. I'm moving to Colorado. It's expensive there.
Yeah.
And this is the reality. And I need a job. Like my wife, active duty alone will not be able to
Cover everything.
Yeah, cover everything by herself. And then I went straight, I go here and I started, before I got here, I started my process to join the Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved here October 24th, and it takes a little bit of paperwork and
Right.
and approvals here and there, but then I was able to join the Guard on January 20th, 2023. So it's cool that we have something that we can relate to. Like, you came here straight, and you 10 days after, you did it faster than me.
Yeah.
So 10 days after you joined the Guard, and basically I knew I was going to join the Guard, like since even before I moved here. So it's crazy that even though we are like, I just met you, we share that like similarity in our story here in the Guard.
Yeah, coming straight into the Colorado National Guard once getting into Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love hearing the stories of why and how people joined. Everyone's got a different motivation.
Yeah.
Different reason for serving, something that keeps them going. After a couple of years, you got to have a reason to stay in and keep serving. And so I love hearing, the background of why people are in and why they stay in.
Mm-hmm.
And your reason, you said, to keep going has been the camaraderie. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Bar none. I've been on 2 deployments now. I've done federal missions, some state missions. I've served in a number of capacities, and I've gained so many friendships, and truly I consider them family members, brothers and sisters in arms, that it's just that level of bond is hard to find elsewhere. It truly
agreed, 100%. We have applicants that walk into the office and they're asking about incentives and benefits, and it's easy to open the book, right, and show them what the government, what the state of Colorado is offering, but it's harder to show them, shirt off my back, right, hot pink National Guard shirt that are fresh in.
You try to get me to wear one.
I tried.
Pink's not my color.
But you almost can't explain it until you are serving with that individual to your left or right.
Exactly.
Going through the good, the bad, all of it together.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. So you were just talking about all the different things that you did, and I want to not just brush over that and let you take some time to tell us more about your story. So you came to Colorado, great transition. I'm glad that happened, into the Guard pretty quick through your recruiter. Now, what you're full-time with the National Guard right now.
Right.
Have you always been full-time? What have you done throughout your career? Highlights, lowlights, good and bad, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, so the first 2 years of my career, I was a traditional guardsman, M-Day, as we call it. So we'll go to drill, annual training, go to various schools when I got the opportunity. And very quickly, a deployment came up, and they were looking for soldiers to go. And I got selected amongst 30 total soldiers to go to Afghanistan with the HIMARS.
And that was in 2017. Yeah, okay.
So I'd been at the unit, after all my training, I had been at the unit for about 2 years by the time we were ready to go.
Okay.
So we got spun up. We went out to Afghanistan, and that experience serving over there is really the foundation and core for that camaraderie I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I got to, one, while we were over there, we were attached to the SSG, so Special Operations Joint Task Force Afghanistan.
Okay.
And we got to shoot rockets and missiles for them on a regular basis. So I got to do my job.
Right.
And a lot of soldiers, active duty, whatever, they don't always get to do their job. But, in the National Guard, a lot of us do get to do our job. And so we did it a lot. We had a nickname for our unit. I told you it was 30 soldiers. We called it the Dirty 30. We'd go out there and we legitimately, kicked butt.
Yeah.
And so we were actually out there supporting BCO 519th, another Colorado unit. We became acquainted with them, and we got to support them quite a bit. So that was a great mission. And then you go through a lot of experiences when you're overseas.
Yeah.
That bonding, some dangerous times, some fun times, some even when it's dark as a soldier, most soldiers find humor, right? And so bonded, and that's really the foundation. Got back, and I was lucky enough to come across the Military Funeral Honors Program. Yep. And that's where I met you.
Yeah.
Yep. Lucky me.
No, me.
So it's known as the Honor Guard.
Yep.
And we do what I think is one of the most important missions in the military. So you can work at a company for 50 years and retire, and then when you're done, that's it. You know, you may never hear from them again. You could serve 2 years in the United States Army, the Army National Guard, and at your funeral, the Army will be there to pay respects to you and your family and your service, present a flag to your next of kin. And that's what you and I got to do for, you know,
many years,
you know, still doing it. And that bond to our soldiers from the past and, you know, honoring them and their service and respecting them and their families, you know, that was a truly humbling experience, but also it meant a lot to me. I mean, you could go home at the end of the day and really feel like you did something good.
Yeah. If you want to elaborate, for soldiers that don't know the opportunities on, you know, everyone always asks, well, the National Guard part-time, right? Mm-hmm. What full-time opportunities? Do you want to talk more about how that process is, getting into the military funerals? That's just one of the programs that offers a full-time job with the National Guard.
Right.
And you kind of hit on the mission. And I'll be the first to say it here. So Sergeant Parisi, you were selected among a total of 4 soldiers nationwide in 2000. Remind me the date. 2019. You were selected, you and 3 others in all 50 states and territories, after a video submission and looking through your record within the military funeral program, to be sent to Washington, D.C., correct?
Yes.
To try out for the Military Funeral Soldier of the Year.
Right. And
you won. First inaugural ever in the history of the National Guard, first inaugural soldier for Military Funeral Soldier of the Year. And so you talked about how important the job is, which I agree. And it takes a level of, I'll let you continue talking. Talk more about that program and your time.
Yeah, so
how did you get into that program?
The National Guard it's kind of like choose your own adventure. You know, you have the part-time opportunities. You can go to different schools, learn more about your job, and then you have the full-time opportunities. And the Honor Guard's one of those programs that I wish more and more soldiers knew about it, because it really is a great way to give back. And so you can do part-time. You can go through the 40-hour training course, learn how to do all the Honor Guard drill and ceremony specific to that mission. And then after you do that course, you can go out on a part-time basis. You know, you got a couple days off during the week, and you can go and honor previous soldiers. And they also have full-time opportunities. So they have the ADOS type orders where you go, you know, I did it for 5 years full time. Yeah. So it was I consider it a career at that point. You know, we did it as a profession, and you every single day are either training or doing services for former service members, or doing ceremonies for various dignitaries and events. I got to see some things close up behind the scenes that you just never get to see. I mean, if you look at coverage of multiple governors' inaugurations, you can see my face right there. I'm just standing there doing my job, you know, but to see it from that angle and be a part of, you know, change and big events is cool. But that was our profession for many, many years. Yeah. And so that's an opportunity that a lot of soldiers don't necessarily know about, but they're always looking for disciplined, motivated soldiers who want to serve in another capacity. Yeah.
I love that you added those titles at the end of that sentence.
Yeah.
Because not everybody does make it through the first 40-hour week, or being sent to, you know, at the 120-hour, 80-hour course, the National Instructor course. And so you had played a role in every position within the military funeral honors program, correct?
Yeah, I've been a team member, an area coordinator. So I ran the Colorado Springs South area. I've ran the Denver area. I was NCOIC after you. So yeah, I've had many leadership opportunities. I feel that I formed the basis for my future job as an instructor there, because I was an instructor on the Honor Guard. You know, you kind of alluded to it. We do the 80-hour instructor course, and then you come back to your state and you train other soldiers, and you get them ready for the mission. And it's so detail-oriented, but everyone there is so passionate about it. So
agreed.
It's, you know, the people you're training want to be there.
Right.
You know, it's not.
It's an all volunteer force.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I really got to learn how how to mold people's learning methods and how they learn.
Yep.
And figure out what would get them to tick and understand what they need to do. I learned it there, training soldiers on the honor guard.
Because just like in anything, everybody learns different, whether
Exactly.
it's visually, writing, reading, and you were able to take your instructor skills and start there.
Yeah, exactly. That's really where I learned and honed my instructor skills, was there.
Which follows, continuing after the honor guard, where has, like you said, the Choose Your Own Adventure book, the opportunities that the Colorado National Guard has allowed and offered, how did your path move into where you are now as a BLC instructor?
Okay, so after the honor guard, I got deployed again, doing field artillery mission. We went to CENTCOM. I got to be a platoon sergeant. To me, that was one of the greatest privileges of my career so far. I got to lead, 20 soldiers overseas. We went to some pretty dangerous places, and I got to see them grow and develop and got really close to them. I'm wearing my platoon hat right now. It's 2nd Platoon, Lost Boys, Bravo Battery.
Love it.
Yep. Really proud to have served with them overseas. And we did some really great things. And had some funny experiences as well, for sure. I'm a field artilleryman by trade.
Yeah.
I shoot rockets and missiles.
Yeah.
And I was also in charge of the base water supply and the fire department on post.
Okay.
Yeah. And shortly after being named the, fire department chief, me and my PL together, we had an actual fire on base out in the middle of nowhere in the desert overseas in CENTCOM. We were put to the test for sure. So not necessarily funny, but, the idea that as a National Guardsman,
right.
This active duty sergeant major came out and said, hey, Sergeant Parisi, you are going to be running this fire department. Good luck. And,
wow.
3 days later, we got put to the test. So,
wow.
That was quite the experience right off the bat. But the National Guard's so cool because we have people from all walks of life. I had a welder in my platoon. I had a school teacher, police officers, national park rangers, everybody.
Yeah.
And that skill set they brought to the table, we were so useful to the other elements, the civilians, the active duty, the other branches. They were always asking us for help because they knew we had people who could do more than just soldier. We're so dynamic. It makes us valuable to the overall mission, and more valuable in my opinion.
So it's crazy you mentioned that. Like I recently went to, I'm part of the MECPOT, and basically the way I see it, when I got to that unit, I'm like, I don't know what is this unit about. I don't know what is a MECPOT. It's Main Command Post Operational Detachment, right? And I'm like, I don't know what they do. So basically, the way I see it is like a MECPOT, specifically ours, is a reserve unit in the Guard. That's what it is, because we augmented the First ID mission, right? And I think they're currently on 80 there. Shout out to all the folks up down there in Fort Riley from the MECPOT.
Have fun out there.
Yeah. So one thing that the Sergeant Major Cole, he works on the in the G9. He mentions all the time is like, and also the commander, Lieutenant Colonel Little Owl. He's like, what we bring whenever we go to the first ID to Fort Riley is that we have that you mentioned, all those skill sets that probably active duty guys don't have.
100%.
Because probably they joined 10 years ago and then they have this massive experience on the active side, but they don't get that experience that we get by working on both sides, on the military and also on our civilian field.
Absolutely. I tell people, especially at the young age in the high schools, for the National Guard, it's almost not even a sell. Do you want to be a business owner? Good. Be a business owner. Do you want to own your own company? Good. Do you want to be a doctor? Good. Do you want to be a lawyer? Good.
Yeah.
Do you want to be a firefighter, first responder? Good.
Yeah.
Do it with us as well. Let us help you get to that goal.
And you mentioned all of those, and if you think who I know is a doctor, is a firefighter, is a business owner in the Guard, you know someone.
Yeah.
Like we got here, Colonel Anga, he's a business owner.
Yes.
My wife is a captain. She's a doctor. She got commissioned 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago.
General Rogers is going to be on the podcast hopefully soon.
She's firefighter. And like police officers on my unit, we have a state trooper. Like, and then once we go to active duty and we augmented them, we see like the way I've noticed, like as a public affairs, because we always see how everything works, and that's the beauty of my MOS, that I can see all the units training and I can see a lot of events like you mentioned from another perspective. Is that once we go active and we go to those missions to help them, we see the problems that they see every day from a different perspective. So we bring something different to the table. And
back to your story, Sergeant Parisi, when you were overseas, with those, I know you mentioned welders and everybody else that is subject matter experts in a different field besides artillery. Did you see those being put to use downrange?
Definitely.
Any stories?
Shout out to Staff Sergeant Burton, one of my closest, dearest friends. He teaches in the classroom with me every single day at BLC, but I've served with him for over a decade. He is a welder by trade. And when we were overseas, we needed to create hides, so an area to park our missiles and rocket launchers and keep them safe and protected from prying eyes. And nobody on post could build one, not even the engineers. That's their job. Well, Sergeant Burton could, and he went out there and welded, with the help of his crew, a complete hide for his rocket launcher. And
wow.
That's just an example. On the less glamorous side, also we were in charge of not only the water, the fire department, rockets and missiles. Yeah. We were also in charge of all the waste leaving the base. And Sergeant Burton had to weld up that truck as well. That was a little less glamorous. But
yes. Yeah. I can only imagine.
That might be less of a sell, but putting that skill to use is so huge. And, we have soldiers who are personal trainers, and so they were helping, active duty soldiers, our soldiers, get in the best shape of their life while they were overseas. Yeah. It's every time we go out to do a mission, I am always surprised to find out the skill set of the soldiers and what they bring to the table. It's so varied and all over the place and so helpful and useful. It makes us a better force when we're actually doing our jobs.
The thing that pops into my mind is, people watch, Hollywood movies about the military and training environments, and especially for junior enlisted soldiers, right? You're kind of at the bottom of the totem pole. It's the beginning of your career. You have, like you said, the choose your own adventure, and you have your whole career with the Guard in front of you. And instead of sometime portrayed in media of like, keep your mouth shut and fall in line and mind your business, is it kind of the opposite from what you've seen? Is, hey, who knows how to do this in the Guard? Hey, does anybody have experience in this? And that's where, as a junior soldier, to be able to stand up and say, yeah, I do that on the civilian side. That's my full-time job.
It's pretty humbling when you're in charge, you're an NCO, and you have soldiers who are specialists. But, on the civilian side, they're GS 13s and 15s. Yeah. And, even some cases, they have senior leaders working for them on the civilian side. They are business owners. They're in charge of people. They are leaders in their own right. Yep. They have 10 years more experience than me doing things. It's humbling. But also, if you know how to harness that, right, all that knowledge and experience, it's not a threat. It's a good thing. It makes us better. So, you can be an E4 in the National Guard, and your leadership will value those skills that you bring to the table, because they know that's what sets us apart and makes us different.
Yeah, it's refreshing to hear. And it's no surprise. We have every guest that we bring on and we talk to, choosing your own adventure, finding your leadership path, finding those mentors. Like you said, humbling yourself and experiencing the skill set and knowledge that's brought to the table here in the National Guard. And it surprises me too every day, and I hope it continues to do so. So you were talking about your second deployment, and then after that wrapped up, coming back.
So we got back, and I was kind of at a crossroads in my career. I had done what I thought I wanted to do in the field artillery up to that point.
Okay.
And I knew I wanted a challenge, something new, different, a way to serve that would invigorate me a little bit. I was at the 10-year point of my career at that point, and I saw a posting online for an instructor position, full-time, AGR, Active Guard Reserve, at the RTI down in Colorado Springs, Fort Carson, at the Basic Leaders course. I applied. I went to the board, went up against some outstanding NCOs. I was selected, and I quickly got into their training regimen and realized I thought I knew a lot. You know, as an E6 with 10 years under my belt, I learned that I had a lot to learn. And it's been so exciting to actually challenge myself in a new way, take a new path, and learn new things and grow and get better as a leader, a person. You know, it's been quite the learning curve. But it's been so rewarding. So I got hired there, and then they send you they send you to it's called SIFTIC. It's the instructor course for the Army. You know, we have a bunch of alphabet soup acronyms in the Army. It's the instructor course. So you sit down and you actually get taught how the Army instructs, and it's different. You know, you're not teaching children, you're teaching adults. And adults learn different. They want to know the why. Why are you teaching me this? Why is it important to me? And you have to learn how to project that to your students so that they will open up their minds and be ready to learn. So you have to learn those steps. So they give you the tools to do that by going to the instructor course. And then, you know, you go through a bunch of trials, learning how to teach. You get in front of students quite a bit. By the time I was a badged instructor, I had 80 plus hours in front of students teaching. So it was a lot of train up to learn how to do it. And it was a lot of learning moments for sure. Yeah. So,
and so you told the name, the RTI. And I'm sure we'll put a comment, or I'm not sure the title exactly what it'll be yet, whether it's Steph Sergeant Parisi's story or, now here we are, becoming an NCO. And so, for junior soldiers that are listening or watching, or for those currently in the civilian sector that are thinking about coming to the military, Sergeant Parisi, can you talk about, you know, we don't just get to promote. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. What are the requirements? How does this work? And how does that all tie in with you right now in your current position at the RTI?
Right. So I teach at Basic Leaders Course, BLC. It is the first NCO school that you're going to go to in your Army career as an NCO. And it's the first of many, because the modern Army is not looking for robots. We don't want people who just blindly follow orders and do what they're told. We want critical thinkers who are experts in their technical job, and they're able to lead soldiers with empathy, discipline, keep people motivated, and understand what drives their soldiers so that they can accomplish the mission. So BLC is to lay the foundation for that. And it's kind of an interesting course. It's different from even when you went and I went. I actually went to BLC at Fort Carson, right down there. And I don't know if you guys did.
WLC at the old building on Fort Carson.
You're old. That's why.
I did BLC in Puerto Rico on the RTI for the National Guard in Fort Allen in Juan Diaz, Puerto Rico.
Okay. Yeah, and so it does change and evolve with the times, but at its core, we teach everything from map breeding and land navigation to battle drills to how to write correspondence, essays, and we have a class on critical thinking. I mean, we're doing the full gamut. You learn how to read op orders, and soldiers, you know, NCOs, future leaders are getting the full breadth of what they're expected to do, because in the Army, an NCO is a jack of all trades. You're an expert in your job, but you're also expected to understand the processes. You're supposed to be a professional at all times. You are going to be put in situations that you were not trained for. I mean, like I said, I was, you know, in charge of a fire department in the middle of an outpost in the desert, and no one trained me to do that, but I did get the skills necessary to lead any kind of challenge, and that started with BLC. So we challenge the students. I love our course, our material. They call it POI, you know, what we're teaching. Because if you're the kind of soldier that's really good at doing Army stuff in the field, but you're not so good at the administrative side, which is just it's important still. Right? Yeah. Right. Me too. We are going to help you get there because both sides are important to being the successful leader in the Army. You know, if you're really good in the field, but your soldiers never get recognized because you're not able to write an award for them, you know, how are you going to keep them motivated? Some people, you know, recognition is a great way to keep our soldiers motivated, right?
Absolutely.
And so you got to be able to do both. You got to be multifaceted. And that's the expectation of a modern NCO in the Army. You need to be able to do it all.
I can sense the passion, and I'm sure you can too, Sergeant Rivera.
Yeah.
And that is so refreshing for me to see. You mentioned it, Sergeant Parisi, I am old, going from WLC at Fort Carson. It was a lot more field time. And we did a couple essays, and, you know, formation and PT, but to hear what is being taught now, and looking back on my experience and your passion as an instructor, and for you coming up here on your own to talk about that passion and how important it is, and that, you know, that program that's a requirement for soldiers. Thank you. So I see it.
Yeah. So I want to go back to the part that you mentioned, like that NCOs nowadays, they're like expected to do everything and not to know everything. We don't like.
No.
And so something that I think was Sergeant Sager mentioned on the previous podcast is you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Like if you don't know it, you don't know it. Like, and then my first assignment after I went to BLC. So I went to BLC 2020. That was July. By October, I was promoted.
Yeah, right in the middle of COVID.
By November, I was running the is a 363rd Public Affairs Detachment in Puerto Rico, because our AGR, our NCOIC, she was reclassing. Shout out to Sergeant Kathy Ramos. I spoke to her yesterday. So she was reclassing to become a Public Affairs NCO. So they needed someone full-time there. I'm like, you know what? I have time. I'll do it. So it was almost 7 months there.
Wow.
And then the particular thing about like detachments is that you don't have the manpower to do, like, you will not have a supply sergeant, you will not have an operations sergeant, you will not have like a training NCO, just like bigger units. My first unit, each role had a person. My unit, my detachment, we were only 8 people. Guess what? I had to do everything. Like I had to be the supply sergeant, do all the lateral transfers, all the like incoming equipment, like all the like we got a new equipment, so we had to go to Fort Jackson, get that fielded, do all the inventory, get the process, ship it to Puerto Rico, input all that stuff into our books.
Yeah.
Operations, you know, cutting orders, sending soldiers to school, preparing their packets to go to school, and I'm glad two soldiers promoted under me.
Good.
You know, 2 soldiers promoted under me, and they went to BLC and they got promoted. So I learned a lot, and basically my MOS was a 91 Lima. I wasn't even a public affairs NCO yet. I went after my AGR NCOIC came back. Yeah, once she came back, then I went.
Yeah.
So those 7 months basically did a lot for me.
Just being challenged and being put to the test.
And as Sergeant Parisi said, is like we are expected to, like, again, not know everything, but do everything, just to make the mission happen.
Yeah, I mean, they say in the NCO Creed, we say it, you know, NCOs are the backbone of the Army. And it's true. Nothing really gets done in the Army without the NCOs. You know, the officers make the plans, you know, and the soldiers are going to be doing a lot of the work, but the NCOs are the ones who kind of drive that forward. They lead by example. And, I mean, without NCOs, without strong NCOs, we will fail. So that's why I'm passionate about it. I was at that midpoint of my career, and I didn't know which direction I wanted to go. But I soon found out why I love instructing BLC so much, and it's because every single month I have 20 to 22 soldiers that I directly get to talk to and influence and hopefully maybe make an impact. I'm not changing the world, but you get to see 20 different soldiers every single month for 22 days, and then they go back to their units and hopefully they learn something and they make an impact. And think about how far that can spread.
It's like a snowball.
Absolutely.
Snowball effect, right?
Exactly.
So
yeah.
if you create an impact of like on, let's say, not on 20 of them, but probably half of them, then they will impact like more soldiers down the road.
Right.
Yeah, and it's, I'm sure, a heavy weight as an instructor, because we see it here and we see the passion and I see the knowledge base and the real world experience. And I hope that all instructors share that, because you could also negatively influence soldiers, and that happens at the regular unit. Some people have a hard time being professional all the time, and it's our job as NCOs is to try and alleviate as much as we can. But for you being an instructor and being able to influence for those new soldiers and for the individuals listening, you touched base on how this is the beginning path of NCOPD, right? Your professional development,
right.
And the first school that you will attend is BLC.
Right.
For an E4 promotable, or even the privates right now coming in, and it's on their horizon, and they're being mentored with that good leadership. What does it look like for a soldier to come and check in with you and report and tell us and our listeners how it would be for somebody coming through the RTI to BLC if it was next week?
Well, first of all, it's not selection. You're not going to be a member of the Special Forces. You have been identified by your leadership as a candidate to be an NCO, and therefore they already have the full trust that you are going to be a good NCO. We're simply giving you the tools to be successful and giving you a little bit more of a foundation to build off of, right? Because going into a new leadership role, just like you did, when your NCOIC was gone, it's kind of scary, right? You don't want to mess up. People are relying on you. There's a mission, and that can be a challenge. So doing that without any kind of training would kind of be irresponsible.
Setting them up for failure.
Right. And so we get the soldiers in day 0. It's just basic in processing. You bring all your paperwork, your equipment, we lay everything out, make sure you have everything, and then we brief you on what the expectations are. And one of the first things we tell the students is you will be treated as an NCO while you're here in this building, whether you are an E4 or an E5, corporal, specialist, sergeant.
Okay.
You will be treated as an NCO, and we call all the students sergeant, regardless of their actual rank on their chest. And that is because we're trying to get them into a mindset that they will be acting and serving as an NCO going forward. And you start seeing that change from day 0 to day 22 at graduation. A lot of light switches come on. Wait a minute. I've been standing in a room thinking, this is kind of messed up. I hope someone, takes charge of this. Well, look down at your chest. You're in charge now, and that realization comes quick. So, immediately we get into a ton of instruction, everything from Army policy, which can be dry, but we try to make it as interesting as possible because the classes are not just PowerPoints.
Okay.
I'm actually by title a facilitator. And so I'm facilitating discussion amongst the students because I want to know, what are your experiences? What do you bring to the table? What are you thinking about how the Army's doing? How are you going to make a change? And they discuss it. I just pose some questions.
Okay.
We could go for 3 hours in the morning before breakfast. And these soldiers have had 3 debates about professional development, how they think the Army should be changing in a positive direction. And these young soldiers have great ideas, and they're absolutely wowing me. I mean, if you are feeling like a little melancholy about the future, you go sit in a BLC classroom and listen to these young leaders talk. They are passionate about the future. They want to make a positive change. They really are invested in the organization. So you go through that for 22 days. There's so many classes. I mean, it's 169 credit or instructional hours.
Okay.
And like I said, I mean, we do outdoor stuff.
Yep.
map reading, land navigation,
Yep.
PT, nutritional readiness. We do leader stakes where you'll be given, a fake weapon, and rubber ducky as we call it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you can go and engage some enemies. You take lead of your squad and you do those battle drills. But also, you're in the classroom learning how to write counselings for your soldiers. And, counselings don't have to be boring. It can be a great opportunity for a leader to actually sit down and get to know their soldiers and influence them properly. And so me and all the other instructors, they're all very passionate about this because, like you said, if you're doing a bad job there, you're having kind of a negative influence. So
Absolutely.
all the instructors I work with are very passionate. Any of them could come up here and talk about this and be just as passionate as I am. But these soldiers at the end, I feel like they're more prepared and they are ready to take on whatever challenge they're going to face as an NCO by the end of this course, and then hopefully they get back to the unit and they implement these changes they've been talking about.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And that at the RTI for BLC, this covers not only the National Guard for everyone currently listening to the National Guard, but also the reserve, all combos, correct? Active duty, Guard, and reserves. Is that correct?
Yes. The RTI, the Regional Training Institute, the 168th RTI at Fort Carson, is very unique. So it's a multi-component school. There's only 2 of those in the entire Army.
Okay.
There's one here, and there's one in Louisiana at Fort Polk. That's it. We are extremely unique. Most soldiers in the active duty go to an active duty BLC. Reserves have their own. Most guards have their own.
Okay.
But we accept all 3 components, and that's what makes our school so much better, in my opinion. It makes it such a strong experience because you have active duty soldiers who are 19 years old. They joined at 17, and they've only been in the Army, and that's not a problem. But they're interacting with guardsmen who the Guard is kind of like, what do they even do?
Right.
And they find out there's extremely competent soldiers and future leaders in the National Guard that they're sitting right next to, and they learn from each other. They interact and they bring their experiences. And, to me, that's just making us a better Army as a whole.
I would agree.
We all bring different things to the table, and so those discussions are super valuable. It's kind of funny. A lot of active duty soldiers leave the class asking me how to get in the National Guard. Once they find out what we're all about. So
Isn't that crazy? Like in the previous podcast, we also mentioned that, and I mentioned that to Colonel Cabral. Is like the building is a recruiting tool, because once they get there, they're like, "Is it the building for the National Guard? What?" And I was like, "Yeah, you haven't been into Briargate, you haven't been up to Windsor, you haven't seen anything."
Right.
Yep.
I think we have the best buildings from all the components here in Colorado.
Do you see any differences as an instructor at BLC, with all the compos for active, Guard, and reserve? Are there any glaring differences that you see from your experience and as an instructor between the soldiers that attend BLC as an active duty service member, a reservist, or in the National Guard?
I mean, definitely, yeah. So their core motivations are often the same, right? They wanted to serve in some capacity. They are looking to learn new leadership skills, but their life experiences vary so much. And when you're in the National Guard, like you said, if you're a business owner, you lead a company, you got 25 employees, but in the National Guard, you're just taking over a squad in a few months.
Yeah.
You have leadership experience. You're an E4 that leads a company. Like that translates differently. And so the life experiences is really what makes a big difference for the guardsmen. I think that kind of sets them apart. We've been kind of talking about that. But, there's differences. But at their heart, everyone's a soldier there, right?
Good.
So,
yep. Yeah. So minute, no major differences that you see.
I feel like a lot of National Guardsmen thrive because as individuals, they bring a lot to the table, and they often perform really well at our school.
That's great to hear.
Just naturally who they are.
Yeah.
Right.
That's great. So for those folks like they wanna like they're E4s or they're already E5 pending to go to BLC.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, like, do you know the graduation rate?
It's like I said, it's not selection, right? So the graduation rate, I couldn't give you a percentage. It's probably pretty high. We ensure that standards are met. We correct soldiers properly and professionally, and normally they take that correction and they grow, right? Some individuals aren't ready and they don't graduate. It's not a free pass. If you're not ready, you won't graduate, but most do.
So yeah, that was my question is going that way. So what is you think is the hardest part on that our students in the RTI struggle with?
It depends on who you are. So if let's use an example. You're an 11 Bravo, right? You're really good at field craft, but you've never written an Army memo, or you are a little rusty on, leading PT or something like that. You're going to struggle in that capacity, but we also do land nav. So you're going to excel there. And it's kind of an equalizer. So the soldiers that are, 42 alphas, they don't get to go and do the outside stuff as much, but they come here and we're going to teach them basic field craft type skills, because the Army wants all NCOs to be good at field work. And so that 42 alpha who typically does administrative work in an office is outside with camo paint on their face, crawling, doing Army things, and they're learning new skills. And so to me, it's like an equalizer. If you're deficient in one category, but you excel in another, we're going to try to equal that out and get you at a better level for both, right? So if you're a sponge, I recommend, if you're coming to BLC, be a sponge. Be ready to learn. Get ready to learn. It's less from me. It's actually more from your fellow students, right? They're going to teach you so much just through your discussions that you have and your different life experiences and Army experiences. You'll learn so much from them, and you build a network too. I mean, you're going to get to know them so well. By the end of it, you're trading phone numbers. You might call on them down the road because they're an expert in something. Right. Yeah. And so different soldiers do well based on different skills.
And everyone has you hit the, you mentioned earlier, every MOS will attend that BLC at RTI. So that's good. Do you think it should be that way? Do you think they should be separated?
I'm skeptical that anyone in the Army thinks my opinion on that matters, but I love that it's every MOS. So for our listeners, if you're going to BLC, it's every MOS. When you go to ALC, the next course, it's the advanced leader course, it's MOS specific. You go to SLC, MOS specific. All right. But then as you progress in your career again, you're going to go back to non-MOS specific schools. But BLC is that foundation, because every NCO has a similar skill set despite their job.
And there's a standard for that base entry NCO. That's kind of what I'm getting. You're saying,
I mean,
across the board, any MOS, any compo, being a leader is being a leader.
Think of what an NCO, a sergeant in the Army, means. I mean, you're in charge of discipline, but you're also in charge of training and mentoring your soldiers. I mean, if something happens in your soldier's personal life, how do you help them deal with that? Because the Army is unique. They expect you to lead your soldiers every day of the week. When they go home, they're still your soldier, right? And so that unique leadership is just totally different when it comes to the Army. But I love that we're every MOS. I think down the road, you need, as you become a staff sergeant, E6, the specialized training is probably very important.
Sure.
And I loved going to ALC and SLC, learning about my MOSs, but that foundation as an NCO starts at BLC.
For those that have recently attended and recognize you as an instructor, or those getting ready to go, and you have attended both ALC and SLC, what are the big differences, or what can you tell these now leaders and NCOs within the force to expect at the next NCOPD?
So the main difference is it is MOS specific as you go on in your schooling. I think overall the Army does a great job of nesting the schools into each other. So we grade papers. You write essays at BLC. Most people haven't written an essay since high school, right? The first essay, it's a little rough. I just got done grading my classes today, so if you're watching, look out for your grades. But rough. But by the third essay, these papers are looking pretty good. And so you learn how to do basic writing, Army correspondence at BLC. Then you go to ALC and you write more papers. And it builds on your experience. It all builds onto the last school you went to. So I think the Army's done really well in that respect of building into the next one. And I know at SLC I wrote a very difficult long paper for my class, and I wouldn't have been as good at that if I didn't write at BLC's first.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, before I forget it, so my old unit at Centennial Training Site shares the compound with the CTS and the RTI, and I was walking through and I saw a soldier in the Air Force uniform in line at BLC, and I thought I did a double take and make sure I wasn't losing my mind. What's up with other branches of service attending the BLC at the RTI?
So that's a new initiative. Sergeant Major Miller, he has been advocating for that. So we have Air Force, and now this month we have a Space Force soldier.
Wow.
Coming to our class, and they're expected to meet all the standards of graduation. They take the ACFT, they do our height and weight, they do everything Army, and this counts as their NCO professional development. This is their school. So they are also becoming NCOs.
Do these soldiers volunteer from the different branches, or were they kind of voluntold? Was there less room? This is brand new to me. So they're volunteering. I'm sure for a lot of people here.
Yeah, so they're volunteering. They're actually raising their hands. They've been given the opportunity to volunteer, and they say, I want to go to the Army BLC, which is a big risk for them because if they fail, I mean, it's not good, right? So they come to our class, our schoolhouse, and these service members are very squared away, but they come away learning quite a bit about Army leadership and different ways to lead their personnel, their airmen, their space guardians. Like it blows my mind, but they often do really well because they're motivated to try something different.
Absolutely.
Is that a new thing only for our state?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very new. This is only 2-3 months.
So it's only for Colorado that you know, or is across all the RTIs?
I'm not sure. I know it's new for us. It's our 3rd month doing it, so we're kind of pilot.
Okay.
Yeah, pilot program. You know, their leadership drops them off to the day 0. They support them, and then at the end, they're there at graduation, and they've done really well. They've gotten into the highest ranks of graduating, but I don't know if we're doing it across the Army. Maybe this is something new. I know in the past we've had soldiers from our partner nation forces as well. You know, we've had Slovenians.
Oh, really?
Yes. That's something that I hope we can continue doing. But our NCO Corps is seriously the envy of the world. I mean, you go look at the nations that we're bringing into NATO and we're training and we're partnering with.
Yeah.
They don't have as strong of an NCO Corps, and it shows on the battlefield. So they're asking us to show them how to do it. So we must be doing something right because other countries are asking us to train their future leaders.
Yep.
So it's crazy that area down there, like the whole like CTS and RTI, they're
big compound,
and then they're like innovating so much. Like it's crazy. Like it's just a podcast before this one.
CTS story.
We were talking about the Marksmanship Academy, and that was almost like our leadership don't know if there's other states doing the same thing, but they didn't have a blueprint when they built this, and then now like we're trying to also help the Space Force and the Air Force to develop NCOs. This is great, you know.
Yeah, it is an innovative place down there. It's not every state gets that or has that kind of support. We have our own RTI and CTS, and that building has so many positive changes. There's people, like you said, innovating, but making new programs, trying out new things.
Yeah.
We do have joint forces coming in, looking to learn from us. I've seen, all walks of life using that facility. It's been pretty interesting just working down there, seeing how valuable it is as an asset.
And I'm sure there's a packing list when soldiers are attending, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you said there's a layout. And you mentioned some of maybe the combat arms side coming in and having to do the field craft. Should soldiers expect to stay in the field when they come down to BLC? How is the lodging? How is the food? Because again, you said I was old. WLC, it was at the old prison at Fort Carson, and there was a lot of Fort Carson, I love your facilities, but it was I'm glad we switched. There was a lot of leaks and pipe issues, and the transportation to the barracks that were now condemned. So for soldiers, maybe it's their first time going to a school and being put in a schoolhouse environment. What can they expect? How, from day to day, chow, lodging, etc.
So it's long days. You get in very early and you go right to class. We have a DFAC on site. The DFAC is excellent. The food there is so good. It's regular Army cooks, and they put out a great product every single day. And if you're staying there, the rooms at the RTI are really nice by Army standards. I mean, they're single-person rooms. You're not sharing. You get your own bed and your own TV and everything. You get to stay there. If you live local, you'll be authorized to go home. But if you live far away, you just stay on there on the campus there, which I think is great because you don't have to drive in every day.
Yeah.
And accommodations are great. I mean, this isn't a school designed to make you suffer. It's a professional development school. You're there to learn. Think more of a college environment in the classroom, and then we go outside and you're doing Army things. So it's a mix of both. But day to day, you're there learning and being assessed quite frequently. We have a lot of tests that you have to study for, and you get fire hose of information, and you got 3 assessments due on a single day, and you have to prepare. You have to practice with your peers and learn how to take advantage of people's knowledge and learn more and get ready. So it can be challenging to manage all that, but day-to-day life's good. I mean, food's awesome. The housing at RTI is way better than any Army barracks I've ever been in.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So Air Force is going there, so it has to be good.
That's true. We haven't had any complaints
Yeah,
yet.
so once the Air Force complain, then we have issues, right? But
Yeah.
So we are at that standard.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think overall, I mean, it's great. It's way better than most Army places I've ever been. Yeah. I'm not going to complain.
Yeah.
So you have more questions, Norcross?
Hold on, let me think. We that was really good. What did we not cover? How long are we at right now?
We are an hour and 3 minutes.
Okay. Is there anything you wanted to say, like on behalf of BLC or instructor, or is there something that you were planning to talk about but we didn't let you get a chance to talk about?
As a service member in the National Guard, it's been a true privilege and honor to serve, but I have also gotten a lot out of it. I mean, I would not be where I am today without the Colorado Army National Guard. Seriously, I would not have been able to buy my house with a VA loan. I am 3 credits away from getting my bachelor's degree. I have paid $0 for this degree. And you guys aren't telling me to say this. I legitimately owe so much to the National Guard. And I have lifelong friends. You can never take that away. The bonds I've built with the soldiers I've served with are so strong. That's not something you can get elsewhere. And I'm so proud to serve, but it's been a great journey. I'm really looking forward to see what comes in the future, because I'm only halfway done. If I want to do 20 years, and I do, there's no question about that now. I do want to serve all 20 years because of how good the Guard's been to me so far.
I know you very personally, and it's so refreshing, and I wouldn't expect anything else for you to say. And I'm so happy that soldiers that have attended BLC at the RTI and those that have the chance upcoming to attend their first NCOPD, if you have Staff Sergeant Parisi as an instructor, feel very lucky. And I'm sure I can speak for, and you can speak for the other instructors as well. And you were talking just about it, then you want to stay. And what is the next chapter of your career look like, Sergeant Parisi? What, we don't know, but what for you, if you were to plan it out, what's next?
Well, I've completed SLC, so I'm hoping to take on, a higher level leadership position at another organization. I love the field artillery, so I'd love to continue
going back.
I mean, that's home for me. That's where I've served, and I love that unit specifically. I love how dynamic we are. I mean, we've gone overseas so many times and served proudly, and we've done a lot on the home front too. And that, that unit is home to me. But I'm always open for another opportunity. So we'll see. The Guard it always surprises me. I think I'm going one way, and then I open a door and there's a completely new opportunity for me to serve a different way. And I haven't been unsatisfied since I started. So we'll see. but I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll see. I'm
I'm
excited.
sure he's going to excel wherever he lands, and senior leaders. Your tour's instructor's up soon, Sergeant Parisi.
I mean, yeah, technically, I don't. I don't want my boss to get mad at me.
Hey, well, there might be a fight between the RTI senior leadership and the rest of the Colorado National Guard trying to get Sergeant Parisi here into a different position or remain the same. When we talked right before you came on the podcast, you were watching the Sergeant Max Miller's podcast, correct? Yep. Is there anybody you would like to invite to come talk to Sergeant Rivera and myself, tell their story, leaders, peers, subordinates alike?
I think I would like to invite Command Sergeant Major Eric Miller, my Command Sergeant Major. That's the challenge. Okay. You're next. He has served 30 plus years in so many different capacities. He brings a wealth of experience. He's also the most approachable Sergeant Major I've ever worked with, so I think he'd be an awesome guest. So sorry about that, Sergeant Major, but you're on.
Command Sergeant Major Miller, correct?
Yes.
Is he on the Guard side? Is he active side?
Oh, Sergeant Major Miller, he's National Guard. Yep. He's National Guard. He's served. He can, when he's on here now, he can tell you all about his life story. But
we'll have to reach
he's
out.
a wealth of knowledge for sure. He would be so interesting to see. You know, he served 30 years ago in a whole different army, but now he's in charge of molding new minds. So he's got a completely different perspective. And he's just kind of keeping up with the times. So yeah, he'd be a great guest. So bring him on next.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I think I say this every podcast. So Elevated Duty Podcast lives inside the Recruitment and Retention Battalion. So you as an instructor, so you see probably, a blend of new soldiers and old soldiers that, they've stayed longer. Mm-hmm. So what you will tell like all those civilians that they want to like join the Guard, or they're not sure, what you will tell them to join the Guard?
So I do. My wife's a teacher, a high school teacher, and I've gone and talked to some of the students there. You guys should give me some kind of like stipend or something when I go do this. But I go out there and they have so many questions because they don't know what the military is. They're so confused sometimes. And I try to explain the Guard mission, but I just let them know, you don't have to fully understand what we do every day, but I let them know what I've gotten out of it and how fulfilling it's been. So, just tell your story. That's the most interesting thing. People love stories and they want to be a part of something, right? It's not, most people, they are looking for that fulfillment of doing something for other people, right? And the Guard's a great way to do that. I mean, when you're responding to a natural disaster in your state, forest fire, blizzards, and you're helping people, and the look on their face, that thankfulness, I mean, that should fuel your fire for quite a while to keep serving. And the Guard gives you that. And then when you're not doing the Guard, go back to your regular career and keep performing there. You get both sides. You get the best of both worlds, right? That's
great. So don't mention the high school, but what area is your wife? Like
she teaches at Castleview High School in Castle Rock.
Okay.
So that's Sergeant Peñalos's area, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah, and we'll get with the recruiter.
Just give a call, and then he'll share.
My mother-in-law's the registrar.
He'll share his pay with you, okay. Right? He'll share his pay with you.
Oh, I'm sure he will. Yeah,
sure. Yeah. And
once Sergeant Peñalosa listens to this podcast, he's gonna be like, "You're playing with my pay."
We call it collateral damage. He's minding his business over there.
or just use the Jeep program. Are you tracking the Jeep program?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have seen some ads for that.
Okay.
I don't know fully how it works.
So if you refer an individual and they join, and you're the service member that refers, and they go through and they ship, the Guard will pay you $500.
I mean, that's a great program.
So Sergeant Parisi, wrapping up here, thank you. I wish that maybe I'll come through as a guest student, and I'll put on a fake mustache and put on an old uniform and come in with an E4 and come through. I would love to see you instruct. From what I've seen on the funeral side and throughout your career, it's been nothing but outstanding. Is there any piece of advice you'd like to give to that you've gotten from a great leader that you want to pass off? Maybe a quote, piece of advice, life advice, whatever, something that has stuck with you that you'd like to tell the entire Colorado National Guard or those watching?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
One, firstly, is when you get home, turn around and thank your family, because soldiers cannot do what they do without the support of their family. I think we say it sometimes, but I really mean it. My wife, Kelsey, has supported me through 2 deployments. I'm going to be going to Hawaii next month to train with their BLC, and that's not really a punishment, that's a reward in my opinion. But, she's had to watch the home front quite a bit, and it's a challenge for them, so thank them, because they are really going to be that core behind you, that support system that you need. So that's one, and don't stop thanking them throughout your career. And 2, when you're a leader, I think it's so important to worry more about earning the respect and trust of the people you lead as opposed to the people who are in charge of you, right? Because if you take care of the people you're in charge of, the soldiers entrusted to your care, everything else will work itself out. I truly believe that. If you focus on your soldiers, things will play out correctly. And the more people who do that, the better we'll be off as an organization.
I love to hear that.
So that's great. So thank you, Sergeant Parisi.
Absolutely.
If you're watching and you like the content, go below, hit the notifications bell, subscribe, like, throw your comments. If you want to have Sergeant Parisi again or one of his peers to go more in deep on what BLC is, just comment down below. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, CO National Guard, CO National Guard. And before I leave, there's the new. So what I mentioned before is the blog. So if you go to our Instagram, and then you click on the link on the Instagram, you go to Explore Careers. You'll see that, and then you click here and you go to our blog.
Oh.
Then all of this is kind of like generic, but then this will kind of start changing once we start posting all the
it looks great.
articles
Yeah, it
there.
looks really good.
So yeah, this is part of our new website. So
Very cool.
main website is
CO Army Guard.
coarmyguard.com, and then that's the main website right there. So again, thank you for watching us. See you in the next podcast.
Thank you, Sergeant Parisi.
Yeah. Awesome.
Love it. You are very, very, very good, my friend.